Tonight,
stay down! Try me!
The violent detention of an alleged shoplifter. What the security company is saying in response as video of the incident circulates. Also tonight, hope and fear.
Then it got more and more intense. Worry, concern, what is coming.
Mixed emotions from Manitoba's Iranian community following attacks on their home country and the death of Iran's supreme leader. Plus, a major development in Stonewall.
It's hard. I think it's hard out here to find housing, so it's a good idea to expand.
What's in store for the community as officials unveil a sweeping plan to add businesses and hundreds of homes?
CTV News. Live from downtown Winnipeg with Marilee Caruso.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. First Nation groups are demanding answers tonight after a video surfaced showing what appears to be a security guard beating a shoplifting suspect over the weekend. CTV's Danton Unger got his hands on that video tonight and joins us now with the fallout. Danton, have you been able to find out anything about what led up to this incident?
Well, Marilee, police allege a man was trying to steal $95 worth of items from the Dollarama downtown. And that's when police say a security guard intervened. What happened next was caught on video, and a warning to viewers, the video in this story is disturbing. A violent incident captured on camera inside a downtown Winnipeg Dollarama.
Stay down!
In the video posted on social media, a security guard who at one point appears to be wearing a brass knuckles type weapon is seen punching and stomping on a man.
What do you think you are?
The Winnipeg Police Service's Major Crimes Unit is now investigating this video. Police say the altercation started Saturday afternoon at the Dollarama when a security guard intervened in an alleged theft. Police say a 46-year-old man is now facing charges of robbery and uttering threats, though the charges have not been tested in court.
It is very disturbing.
Manitoba Kiwatanoe Okamakinak Grand Chief Garrison Settee condemned the actions against the man, who he says appears to be Indigenous.
It makes me angry, as a matter of fact, that our people are subject to that kind of violence, and that is simply that's what it is. It was a violent assault, and even when theft is suspected, that kind of violence is never justified.
Those thoughts echoed as dozens rallied outside the Dollarama, which was temporarily closed Monday afternoon.
We don't want to be the goon security company.
Impact Security Group President and CEO Ron Derrico confirmed the guard involved is an Impact Security employee and has been removed from active duty. He says the guard acted out of scope of his training.
Every officer is given training. They are taught use of force. They are taught how to comply with arrest procedures. Why this went off the rails, I can't answer that. I don't know what this individual was thinking.
Meanwhile, a spokesperson for Dollarama tells CTV News, "We do not authorize the use of force in any situation," adding further it's putting the security firm on notice and is cooperating with the investigation. But First Nation leaders want answers and are calling for the province to step in.
We think it was definitely an excessive use of force. If you see in the video, you don't really see the individual being aggressive in any way, and yet he continued to be assaulted, and that
Southern Chiefs Organization, MKO, and the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs have all called for an independent review under the province's Private Investigators and Security Guards Act. Now, Manitoba Justice Minister Matt Wiebe wouldn't commit to a review, but tells CTV News the province is already working to modernize the 40-hour security guard training program and develop a new code of conduct, noting the importance of cultural sensitivity in the work of security guards. The province confirms in this case the guard's license has been suspended.
Denton, you mentioned it appears that guard was wearing brass knuckles. Are security guards allowed to have those?
No, merely brass knuckles and similar devices made of metal are prohibited in Canada, along with certain firearms and other weapons. Even being caught with brass knuckles could lead to criminal charges.
All right, thanks for this, Danton. A Portage La Prairie family is sharing its heartbreak tonight after a 12-year-old boy died in a weekend house fire. And a warning, some of the details may be difficult to hear.
All they're doing is crying, and they're very, very very hurt and lost.
Clint McIver says his nephew, Alexander Bolio Jr., was killed in Sunday's fire at his family's home. McIver says his sister and her husband were home with 5 of their children when that blaze broke out. He says Bolio was trapped in his bedroom and the doorknob broke off when his father tried to rescue him. The rest of the family was able to escape through a window, but they were unable to save the boy.
There was a window on the outside and they busted the window, but it was too small. And my brother-in-law was holding his hand and he said, "Don't worry, we'll get you out, we'll get you out." And he was just crying and screaming and he was holding his hand and then he had asthma and he just collapsed.
McIver describes his nephew as a kind boy who loved to play video games and be with his family. All of the family's belongings were lost in the fire. McIver says the Canadian Red Cross is helping, but donations of food and other necessities are still needed. The cause of that fire is under investigation. Meanwhile, one person remains unaccounted for after a late-night fire in Winnipeg's Lord Roberts neighborhood. Crews were called to the 600 block of Nassau Street South around 11:30 Saturday night after that fire was first reported by Winnipeg police. When crews arrived, smoke and flames could be seen coming from the home. The fire was brought under control by about 2:45 a.m. The city says no one was hurt, but one person remains unaccounted for. That home is believed to be a total loss. CTV News has reached out to the city for more details. Iranian Manitobans are worried about their loved ones tonight, but also hopeful major change is coming to the country. A joint U.S. and Israeli military campaign is underway against the Middle Eastern country tonight. But as CTV's Harrison Shin shows you, not everyone is in support of the attack.
A deadly attack in the opening moments of the joint operation in Iran by U.S. and Israeli forces brought an end to the rule of leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Maya Masheed Ratspice is an Iranian Manitoban living in Thompson. She says watching the conflict unfold has brought a mix of emotions. She's hopeful for a free and democratic Iran, but also worried for her loved ones back home.
I hope they're safe. And I hope very soon we celebrate the freedom of our country together in Iran.
Over the weekend, several demonstrations were held throughout Winnipeg. On Saturday, some in the Iranian community supporting the exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi held a car rally at CF Polo Park supporting the attack.
We were very worried about the people of Iran fighting this fight alone. They have been killed. Maybe all of the killings would have been, prevented if this had happened sooner.
When Khamenei's death was reported by Israeli officials early Saturday afternoon, a brief cheer erupts. On Sunday, however, a protest took place in front of the U.S. consulate, organized by Peace Alliance Winnipeg, condemning the military attack.
It's very easy to say that, okay, this is a state with a totalitarian government, and that could very well be, but that doesn't mean that we have a right as the West to go in and install our puppet governments.
With the future of Iran very uncertain, people like Mohammed Soleiman-Nejad say the days ahead will be tense.
So when someone asks them, how are you? The answer is not as simple as I'm good or bad, because the amount of stress and pressure that is on them is absolutely crazy.
Harrison Shin, CTV News, Winnipeg.
We're getting a better idea of how blowing snow, low visibility, and ice last Friday affected travel conditions for Manitobans. 277 collisions were reported to Manitoba Public Insurance Friday. 187 of those took place in Winnipeg. Now, drivers are being reminded to adjust their habits to adverse weather conditions, including slowing down, leaving more following distance, and avoiding travel altogether when possible. All right, let's bring in Colleen Brady now and get a first look at your Skywatch evening forecast. Smooth sailing or driving, I guess, up there tonight.
Compared to that, yeah, sure.
Yeah, temperatures are great today, actually.
They certainly were, but you mentioned those winds, 83-kilometer-an-hour winds we had here in Winnipeg at one point on Friday, and a lot of other communities in southern Manitoba had wind gusts in excess of 80 kilometers an hour as well. So not so blustery at all. Now, yesterday was a bit of a cool start to the month of March. I think it's a bit of a stretch to say it came in like a lion, but nonetheless, today felt more lamb-like, certainly. certainly, yes, mild conditions, and it looks like overall it will be a mild week. Conditions will be changing throughout, but while it's mild here in the south, there are parts of the province, a good swath of Manitoba, under a cold warning tonight. I'll show you where coming up. The CTV Live Eye is brought to you by Bath Fitter, exclusive home of the PermaFit solution. In Winnipeg right now, it is minus 10 degrees and cloudy, and it is windy here. Not as windy as Friday, granted, but still northeast winds at 31 kilometers an hour with some wind gusts at 42 is definitely considered very windy. With the wind chill, it feels like minus 19. The pressure is rising, and the humidity right now, Marilee, is 61%.
Thanks, Colleen. A Winnipeg man is in custody tonight following a federal RCMP investigation into death threats made against Prime Minister Mark Carney on social media. The federal policing agency began the investigation in mid-January after a user on X, formerly known as Twitter, allegedly posted threats towards the Prime Minister and incendiary messages about Jewish and Muslim communities. A 55-year-old man was arrested February 13th. RCMP say he's facing 3 counts of uttering death threats. He remains in custody and has a court date set for next Friday. RCMP say a man was arrested twice in one day. The second time was for a homicide. It all happened in the Paw. Officers got called to an assault at a home, and when they arrived, they found a 33-year-old man with serious life-threatening injuries. He was transported to hospital where he later died. RCMP say a 22-year-old man from Saskatoon who had been arrested earlier in the day on an unrelated matter was again arrested later that day in connection to the homicide. He's charged with second-degree murder. Police have also arrested a 32-year-old man from Thompson and charged him with second-degree murder. And police have also issued an arrest warrant for 30-year-old Draven Lester McCready. He's also from the Paw. McCready has ties to the Paw, Moose Lake, and Thompson. Anyone with information on his location is asked to call RCMP or Crime Stoppers. A major expansion is planned for Stonewall. A new Red River co-op and hundreds of new homes are in the works for 50 acres of land on the eastern side of town. And as CTV's Jeff Keel shows you, the mayor says it will help keep money in the bedroom community.
There's not much to see on this snow-covered field on Stonewall's eastern edge, but one day soon, businesses and hundreds of housing units could rise here.
We don't want to see our dollars going down the highway.
The town of Stonewall has announced Whiteland Real Estate is planning a mixed-use project known as the Quarry District on 50 acres of land. The $40 million Phase 1 portion will see a brand new 26,000 square foot Red River Co-op as the anchor tenant for the development. Other commercial outlets will follow. And then a future phase will have 500 residential units, which could include single-family and seniors housing.
I believe that having that residential growth will not only attract people here, but also keep people here.
Stonewall Mayor Sandra Smith calls this a transformative investment. She hopes new businesses will keep people shopping locally, away from the allure of Winnipeg, which is just minutes away.
Well, we do have a main core of businesses here. This just gives that additional layer where people don't have to leave as much as they do now.
Corrine Pollock welcomes a bigger and better grocery store and the new housing.
It's hard. I think it's hard out here to find housing, so it's a good idea to expand.
Not everyone is as excited about expansion. David Jennings says he's not in favor of a project of this size.
It is a small knit community, and making it bigger is just going to take away from that.
We believe those challenges can be met through proper planning, and we're taking a real hard look at how we maintain the integrity and the character of our town.
Construction could begin shortly. The mayor says shovels could hit the ground here by spring. Jeff Keel, CTV News, Stonewall.
According to the mayor, the town is on the hook for just over $1 million for water, sewer, and drainage services as part of a cost-sharing agreement. The city of Winnipeg is clearing more red tape in an effort to speed up construction and related activities. It's now added 5 projects which qualify for development permit exemptions. It includes change of use projects to bring offices, personal services, or retail sales to existing commercial buildings, replacement of existing fire escapes, and like-for-like replacement of balconies. Exemptions allow developers, homeowners, or small business owners to bypass development permits for certain projects. However, most will still need a building permit. The city says the latest additions put the number of exemptions introduced in the past 2 years to 41. A new French school is set to open in St. Boniface this coming September. The middle year school will fall under the Franco-Manitoban School Division and have an opening capacity of 375 students. It will be located in the former Springs Christian Academy on Youville Street. Manitoba's education minister says the school is needed to provide spaces amid record demand for French language education.
We know that French language education is very important. We know that DSFM has enrollment that supports a new school, and so we proceeded in this way because we knew it was a very quick and efficient way to get a new school into St. Boniface as quickly and as affordably as we could.
Tracy Schmidt added her department is working with the school division to add another school in Brandon. Classes at the new DSFM school in St. Boniface are scheduled to start on September 11th. Part of the Nestawaya River Trail is closing, but it has nothing to do with the weather. The Forks is closing off the sections between the port of Queen Elizabeth Way onto Churchill Drive. This is to allow maintenance work to be done on the rail bridge before ice conditions change. That includes work to remove steel framing on the bridge's counterweight system. For now, the Assiniboine River portion of the river trail will remain open, but it could also soon close as the Forks tells us water levels are on the rise, which is already causing some over-ice flooding. The Canamy Rink and upper trails are still open for skating. However, that is also weather dependent. Still to come tonight, the latest on the evolving situation in the Middle East.
This was our last best chance to strike.
More on the widening conflict between Iran, the United States, and Israel as calls grow for Donald Trump to justify the strikes. That's after the break. It was a mixed day on the markets. Crude oil added $4.21. The loonie slid to just over 73 cents U.S. Gold futures jumped $63. The TSX closed 201 points higher. The Dow Jones lost 73 points, while the Nasdaq was up 80 points. The Winnipeg Police Service has gone over its books and is reporting it's actually under budget for the year 2025. According to a new report to the police board, the service says it was actually $10 million over budget for a number of different provincially funded initiatives last year. However, that same report says it was offset by revenue of the same value. In addition, police found $2 million in overtime savings. And while there were fewer total tickets issued, there was an increase in photo radar tickets in construction zones. Combined with other savings, Winnipeg Police ended the 2025 fiscal year $1.7 million under budget. A warning from Donald Trump about bigger strikes to come as the U.S. and Israel again targeted Iran today. An assault the U.S. president says will go on for as long as it takes. Iran has escalated the situation by lobbing hundreds of missiles at Arab states and U.S. bases. Hezbollah, Iran's proxy in Lebanon, is also firing rockets at Israel. Meantime, Iranians are fleeing the country in the hundreds to neighboring Turkey. And that is where we find CTV's Adrian Gobriel, who has a lot to unpack on this third day of the conflict.
Unrelenting and punishing, just 3 days into this U.S.-Israeli-led military campaign against Iran, and the number of countries being pulled into this war is growing. Blasts echoed across Beirut today. Israel's military confirming it struck Hezbollah targets in Lebanon after the Iranian-backed group says it launched rockets and drones of their own into the Israeli city of Haifa. Visiting the site of a missile strike on a synagogue west of Jerusalem, where at least 9 people were killed, Israel's prime minister says he warned the world that Iran was capable of attacking Western allies.
I stand here in a place that was bombarded by the terrorists in Tehran against innocent civilians. You see the difference. The tyrants of Tehran target civilians. We target the tyrants of Tehran to protect civilians.
Though inside Iran, Red Crescent workers there say more than 500 people have been killed, including children, who died here following an airstrike that struck a school. In the early morning hours, multiple flashes can be seen in the sky as a drone strike hits a British Royal Air Force base in Cyprus. This coming just as the U.S. has been granted permission to use British military bases for defensive strikes on Iranian missile sites. In Kuwait, a U.S. fighter jet is seen spiraling to the ground, one of 3 American F-15s shot out of the sky following a friendly fire incident. An oil refinery in Saudi Arabia was shut down today after it was hit by an Iranian drone. Iran's newly formed Leadership Council says it won't negotiate with the U.S. administration as the war widens its reach.
But this is war.
Istanbul University political science professor Kivak Yusaloy says many in the region are still waiting for Israel and the United States to present a credible case for setting off this war with Iran.
Turkish government nowadays does not want to be seen as siding with Israel in an attack against Iran. An unjustified attack, by the way. A lack of public diplomacy in all senses. From the side of U.S. and from the side of Israel.
While over 1,000 targets have been hit across Iran, Israel has argued that this was a preemptive attack. The only certainty, this full-scale war is escalating at an alarming rate.
Here in Turkey, President Tayyip Erdogan has called the attacks on Iran a clear violation of international law. Adrian Gobrel, CTV News, Istanbul.
U.S. President Donald Trump is back in Washington and under pressure to explain why the U.S. is waging war with Iran and what the endgame is. CTV's Joy Melvin reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump is not backing down, claiming a nuclear-armed Iran was an imminent threat. They saw an opening, he said, and took it.
This was our last best chance to strike what we're doing right now and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime.
The president says they've crushed Iran's leadership. Though he campaigned on no more wars, Trump predicted this one will last 4 to 5 weeks, but he's prepared to go even longer. As the war widens across the Middle East, the Pentagon confirmed 3 U.S. fighter jets were shot down in friendly fire by Kuwaiti forces. All 6 crew members are safe. But the Secretary of War insists this will be a short one, and it's not about regime change.
This is not Iraq. This is not endless. This operation is a clear, devastating, decisive mission. Destroy the missile threat, destroy the Navy, no nukes.
General Dan Kane said the U.S. is sending more troops and fighter jets to the region as this war expands. 6 soldiers have been killed in action, more than a dozen seriously wounded. And President Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground.
We expect to take additional losses, and as always, we will work to minimize U.S. losses. But as the Secretary said, this is major combat operations.
With the world already rattled by the fighting, Congress is sharply split. Republicans back the president. Democrats call the war illegal.
They've started this war without permission from the American people or from Congress. We don't go send Americans to fight and bleed without the country having a say.
Lawmakers will get a classified briefing soon on conflicting intelligence over whether Iran was close to attacking the U.S., and they'll put the president's war to a vote in Congress. Joy Melvin, CTV News, Washington.
France says it will increase the size of its nuclear arsenal as tensions around the world rise. It also says it will expand cooperation with European allies, including the temporary deployment of nuclear-armed aircraft to other nations.
De coordination entre adversaires.
French President Emmanuel Macron updated France's nuclear doctrine today. He says several countries are interested in taking part in nuclear war games, including Germany, Poland, and Denmark. France and Britain are both nuclear powers. Mark Carney wrapped up his trip to India after he and India's Prime Minister pledged to sign an economic partnership agreement by the end of the year. The trip is being described as a diplomatic breakthrough, but questions of Indian interference in Canada are not going away. CTV's Abigail Beeman reports.
Prime Ministers Mark Carney and Narendra Modi launch a new phase of the Canada-India relationship, and Carney invited Modi to visit Canada.
There has been more engagement between the Canadian and Indian governments in the last year than there has been in more than 2 decades combined.
We will turn ideas into global solutions.
Announcing 5 memorandums of understanding on energy and AI and 10 commercial deals, including a highly anticipated $2.6 billion deal to sell uranium from Saskatchewan to India.
It's going to be good for the electricity outbuild here in India, as well as good for the economy and good for, in particular, northern Saskatchewan and Canada, I would say, as well.
The pair committed to finalizing a new broad trade deal by the end of the year.
Business loves certainty, and particularly at a time like this where uncertainty is rampant, trade agreements give us some confidence that we can invest in each other's countries.
Carney has not taken any questions since a government official suggested Wednesday India was no longer actively carrying out foreign interference or transnational repression, and canceled the first media availability of the trip today, blaming scheduling. The Foreign Affairs Minister for the first time gave a clearer assessment of the comments.
The words of the senior official are not words that I personally would use. I agree with his comments relating to the guardrails that we have in place.
But the bilateral relationship has become so warm, Canada welcomed Indian government officials, including the High Commissioner, onto the Prime Minister's plane from Mumbai to New Delhi. Carney's office said Modi accepted the invitation, but there's no timeline for a visit to Canada. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, New Delhi.
Canadian farmers are looking ahead to the spring season with China suspending some agricultural tariffs on Canada. China's finance ministry announced the 100% tariffs on canola meal and peas, as well as a 25% levy on lobsters and crabs will no longer be imposed. It comes after Carney and the Chinese president reached a recent deal on electric vehicles and canola. The duties on canola seeds hit farmers hard last year. They say the relief is good news, but there is still a lot of work to be done to make sure family farms can weather future trade disruptions. We move our clocks forward this weekend to daylight saving time, but in British Columbia, they will not be falling back in the fall. Premier David Eby says his province will adopt daylight saving all year round. This means BC will be on the same time zone as the Yukon and will match Alberta from November to March. It will also be 1 hour behind Washington State, Oregon, and California during the winter months. The Lajimodiere Overpass project is on budget for now, but what will happen if unexpected costs arise? Well, that's an open question. Plus, the Manitoba team's riding high at the Brier. All that and more after the break.
A cloudy start to the long-range forecast for Winnipeg. Wednesday and Thursday, cloudy, -7 on Wednesday. Not much of a drop-off Wednesday night, down to -10. Up to -4 we go on Thursday. Now, there is the possibility we could see some snow come through Thursday night. Mix of sun and cloud by Friday, though, -4 degrees. And then the weekend, yes, it's a few days out, but looks so far so good. +4 Saturday, a mix of sun and cloud, +3 degrees Sunday. A mix of sun and cloud again, with the chance, albeit a low one at this point, of rain showers.
A North End grocery store has gone up in flames. Crews found heavy smoke and flames coming from Bannerman Grocery when they arrived shortly before 7:30 this morning. They launched an exterior attack using an aerial ladder and hand lines to pour water on the fire. Neighboring homes were also evacuated as a precaution. The building sustained severe smoke, fire, and water damage and will be torn down. The city says it was vacant and had been damaged by a previous fire last month. The cause of this fire remains under investigation. The Lajimodiere Overpass project is on time and currently on budget, but a new report reveals there isn't much money left if the project goes over budget. The entire project is expected to cost just over $51 million. However, a new report says bids for the project were higher than expected, meaning construction costs are about $6.2 million higher than initially predicted. It says other funding streams will be needed to be secured if unexpected costs come up. Work is currently underway on the southbound part of the bridge, with drainage work starting in the spring. The entire project is expected to wrap up by the fall of 2027. Manitoba's Matt Dunstone remains undefeated at Montana's Brier in St. John's. Dunstone managed to improve to a 3-0 record this afternoon with a decisive 8-3 win over the Northwest Territories. After 8 ends, there is one other team taking part in the Brier, and that's Braden Calvert's rink. It beat the team from British Columbia 8-4 after 9 ends. Those two teams will face each other in the morning draw tomorrow.
We can't throw it hard down.
CTV Skywatch weather brought to you by South Beach Casino and Resort. Visit southbeachcasino.ca.
Well, March is here, and Colleen, I got to tell you, it sure feels like spring is in the air.
Well, meteorological spring has arrived, so you can legitimately hang on to that. I know I was talking a lot about that last week, and with good reason. March, April, and May, those are the 3 months of meteorological spring, which means meteorological winter. It's behind us. Well, temperatures this week won't feel so winter-like after, you got a little cold there for a bit, didn't it? And certainly yesterday to usher in March. Today, much milder, and overall, I showed you those long-range forecast temperatures. It looks pretty good overall. I mentioned we may see a little bit of snow a little later on in the week. Other areas saw a little bit of snow today, up around Swan River, for example, and a little bit more of that to come. But while it's mild here in the south, it's bitterly cold, or will be overnight tonight across much of northern Manitoba. In fact, Environment Canada expanded the regions under its yellow warning for cold today substantially. Several regions now under that warning, including Lynn Lake out in the northwest through Thompson, Gillam, Shamattawa up into Churchill, back over to Dooley Lake and into Brochet. So you'll have wind chill values that will feel in the -45, -50 range overnight and into early tomorrow morning. And you can hit the repeat button, unfortunately, for the next several nights. Bitter cold, high pressure just dominating over that part of the province. We'll see those overnight wind chill values just come back over the next few days. Meanwhile, down here in the south with the milder conditions, we have that little bit of light snow that has been passing through. Look for some of that to continue to pass north of Winnipeg, and some of it may make its way into northwestern Ontario overnight. Then we get into Tuesday morning. The next round of snow starts to move into central areas, and it's another narrow band, and we'll see this happen on again, off again throughout the next few days. Meanwhile, the north stays pretty clear and very bitterly cold overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. Meanwhile, down here in the south, you can see on the southern edge of that precipitation, perhaps even a little bit of freezing rain popping up on Wednesday morning here in the south. We'll see how that plays out as we get closer. And then tonight, though, increasing cloud, partly cloudy this evening, more clouds overnight tonight. We drop down to around -13. That's a couple of degrees above normal for this time of year. Northeast winds at 20 kilometers an hour tonight. Lighter north winds tomorrow morning for the commute. Cloudy, up 1 to -12 on the way to a high of -6 degrees. Normal now for highs -5. Northwest winds 15 kilometers an hour, hoping for more of a mix of sun and cloud as we get into the afternoon. Now Churchill, there's blowing snow there. Now Environment Canada says that near blizzard conditions, or that blowing snow, should subside earlier this evening before you drop down to -34. Gillam clear, -34 there. Temperatures down into the upper -20s, low -30s overnight. Thompson, you'll see in Island Lake and Thompson, some light snow there tomorrow. Light snow tonight through Lynn Lake, Flin Flon, and the Paw, as cold as -34 for Lynn Lake. Snow spreads into Norway House tomorrow, -17 there, while it continues across the rest of the northwest. Cloudy tonight across the southwest, Brandon, Neepawa down to -15, a little colder in Dauphin, and a little bit of light snow continuing tonight in Swan River. Cloudy there tomorrow, -7. Brandon up to -5. Winnipeg in the southeast, varying amounts of cloud, -12, -13 for most of us. Mix of sun and cloud tomorrow with minus single digits, -5, -6 for most. Cloudy tonight in northwestern Ontario with a chance of flurries. Freezing drizzle can't be ruled out either. Highs right around the freezing mark on Tuesday. To our weather photos we go. This one was taken along Highway 2 here in southern Manitoba. Beautiful look at the different colors in the sky. That photo is from Diane. And this cutie is Sadie, out enjoying a walk with Rita near Whitemouth in southeastern Manitoba. Send us your weather photos to winnipegweather@ctv.ca.
Thanks, Colleen. Students and community members jammed out on Sunday, hoping for peace in this challenging world. Seven Oaks School Division brought students, staff, families, and community members together for a music and art-making session. Arts for Peace took place at West Kildonan Collegiate. Students and community members on all levels of instrument skills joined in for a jam session. The school's band teacher says this was the first time doing the event.
It's about building community and hope and the sense of peace in an often very challenging world. I find that our kids sometimes have the weight of the world on their shoulders, and what a better way to build community and hope and joy and laughter than through the arts.
Attendees could also write their own messages of peace and hope on a sticky note, which will later become part of a collective art piece. The ripples from the conflict in Iran have already reached the gas pump. When we return, how much the price of gas has already gone up and what may be in store yet. That's next.
Glue to skin. She could be soaking up a
The price of gas is on the rise as the escalating conflict in the Middle East drives up world oil prices. And just how high prices climb or how long they last really all depends on how long and disruptive things get. Joining me live now to explain is Matt McLean with GasBuddy.com. Matt, good to speak with you.
Good to be here.
First, can you just give us an idea of how much higher prices at the pump are already?
So we are looking, just based on analysis of the first 3 days of this U.S.-Israel-Iranian conflict, about 5 to 15 cents per liter in Canada across the board. That is what we're looking at. If it hasn't already started, it will be starting later today, and most stations will have already wrapped up raising their prices by no later than Wednesday midday. We are still, though, as an ongoing conflict, always trying to make sure that we take into consideration daily analysis of the ongoing conflict. Today, we can't analyze because it's not over yet.
Yeah, things happening very quickly. What is causing the market to, react so swiftly like this?
Well, volatility. You've got the Strait of Hormuz, where Iran is indicating they are closing it down or have closed it down. Whether or not that is truly verified, there's some conflicting reports back and forth, and since I'm not there and you're not there to confirm it with our own eyes, we have to assume that there is obviously some sort of an interruption. We're also receiving reports that maybe a triple-digit amount of tankers have dropped anchor on either end of the Strait of Hormuz. That's 20% of the world oil supply that goes through the strait, and that comes at a price. It becomes a problem if the oil isn't still moving through there and getting to the necessary locations that oil was supposed to be going toward.
So worst case then, just how high could prices climb if this conflict drags on?
We can't really give that, and here's why. We don't know, and even the people firing missiles back and forth aren't truly sure exactly where it's going to land until it does so. I'm saying this because there are too many scenarios out there that could potentially rattle and impact oil prices, even from an infrastructure standpoint, from neighboring countries around Iran that obviously also produce a gargantuan amount of oil for the globe. So we don't know until basically the smoke clears exactly what could transpire in the coming days, and I think it would be very unwise at this point to really stick the neck out there and try to create some sort of an analysis based on literally at this point thin air. You've got the White House saying in America that the biggest hit is yet to come, or the biggest wave is yet to come. They making those comments within the past hour, and that also gives an analyst like myself pause, making you wonder, okay, well, what's getting ready to happen and how will that impact oil prices? We're just in a wait and see at this point.
Can oil-producing countries increase output quickly enough to make up for any lost supply?
Boy, when you're talking about a 20% cutoff of the world's oil supply, that becomes a really interesting concept. And it's not that maybe Canada, America, Mexico, Venezuela's kind of pigeonholed into the 1 million barrels per day that they're able to produce because their infrastructure is so badly damaged from lack of care over the past 15 to 20 years. Could we ramp up some? I think we could. I don't know that we could cover all 20% of that loss. That's the concern that I personally have and makes me wonder. But with regard to what exactly would take place, let me stress, Canada, America, basically the North American continent, we're okay. We're not going to run into supply issues here, gasoline or oil, but we are going to be impacted because of the global oil price.
Well, Matt, I want to thank you for sharing your take on all of this with us tonight. It was great speaking with you.
Sure thing, anytime.
An advocacy group of farmers and environmental organizations wants Health Canada to implement mandatory labeling on pork from gene-edited pigs. Advocacy group Canadian Biotechnology Action Network says Canadians won't know where gene-edited pork is on the grocery store shelves if they're introduced into the market. Network coordinator Lucy Sherratt says public opinion polls in Canada show more than 80% of Canadians simply want to know where genetically engineered foods are. Earlier this year, Health Canada approved the sale of gene-edited pigs as food. At the time, it said special labeling would not be required, as it says there is no difference in terms of health and nutrition between the gene-edited pigs and any other. A new study suggests the rate of young men contacting Ontario's mental health helpline for gambling-related problems has jumped by more than 300% since the province allowed private online gambling. The study, published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal today, looked at Connex Ontario, the province's free 24-hour mental health and addictions helpline. Researchers tracked the volume of contacts for gambling-related concerns over a 13-year period from 2012 to last September. It noted an increase after January 2015, when the government launched the gambling platform Play OLG, as well as after April 2022, when it expanded private online gambling. Among males ages 15 to 24, the monthly rate of gambling-related contacts to the helpline rose by 317% during that time, and by 108% for men ages 25 to 44. Experts say more evidence is mounting about the impact social media has had on the mental health of children and teens. But there are ways parents can help their kids find a digital, healthy balance. Experts suggest parents look for ways to fill kids' time with in-person activities. This can include phone-free family meals, healthy bedtimes, and after-school clubs or sports.
Encouraging or requiring in-person activities can be more effective than simply banning social media, because it offers concrete and hopefully enjoyable alternatives.
That's Tamar Mendelson, who specializes in public health policy and suggests parents encourage kids to engage with positive online spaces that expand their social circles. Finally, she says you should be aware of concerning behavior, including increasing amounts of time on social media, interference with daily tasks, and difficulty getting off the sites.
Medical Watch is brought to you by Manukin Koster Denture Clinic.
Toddler techno is taking the world by storm, and now the man behind the music is bringing his show to Winnipeg. Those details next in Spotlight.
Spotlight, sponsored by the Casinos of Winnipeg, presenting the Irish Rovers.
The man behind a new genre of music dubbed toddler techno is heading out on tour with the stop here in Winnipeg. Lenny Pierce is bringing his high-energy, family-friendly show to Burton Cummings Theatre June 16th. He's previously sold out shows across the globe with his modern approach to classic children's songs. Tickets go on sale through Live Nation on Friday. I think that's for parents who went to raves back in the day. If you know, you know. You can learn new skills and meet new people, all while helping out at one of Winnipeg's most popular destinations this summer. The Assiniboine Park Conservancy is looking for volunteers to fill a wide variety of roles at the park and zoo. That includes as ambassadors, visitor services, special events, assistants, and more. There's even roles geared toward teens. Now, it's worth noting volunteers are not involved in the feeding or handling of animals. The application deadline is May 31st. You can learn more and apply by visiting assiniboinepark.ca. Scream 7 scared off its competitors, taking in the top spot at the weekend's box office.
Little town you found. You and your pretty daughter.
The Paramount film opened with a franchise-best $64 million weekend, according to studio estimates. After claiming the top spot last weekend, Stephen Curry-produced animated film Goat dropped to second place, earning $12 million in its third weekend. Wuthering Heights, starring Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie, rounded out the box office, earning $7 million in its third weekend. Kick off your Monday with our primetime lineup. Extracted is at 7, Memory of a Killer follows at 8, and Catch the Rookie at 9. It's all right here tonight on CTV.
It's a special night for stargazers. The best time you can catch tonight's lunar eclipse still ahead.
Women's clothing provided by RW & Company. Salon services provided by S&T Spa Salon.
-10 out there. The camera's blowing around in those winds. Out of the northeast, they're coming 31 kilometers an hour with wind gusts up to 42. Those winds will ease up as we go throughout the night. -5 is the normal high for this time of year. We got to -3, but on this day 1 year ago, nearly +3. Tonight we dropped down to around -13 degrees. Increasing clouds overnight really doesn't bode well for watching that moon. -6 degrees on Tuesday, -7 and cloudy Wednesday, up to -4 Thursday. Friday looks pretty good, but the weekend looks even better.
Thanks, Colleen. Well, Manitobans will be able to view a special sight in the night sky early tomorrow morning. A total lunar eclipse is set to take place overnight. It's also known as a blood moon, and the moon will turn a crimson red as it slips into the Earth's shadow. This is the first eclipse of the year, and it's expected to last around 5.5 hours. Manitoba Museum astronomer Scott Young says the best time to see it here is between 4:30 and 5 a.m. So just get up early, I guess.
Cloudy and cloudy, but try anyway, folks, because you never know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's early to get up, though, but
yeah,
it might be worth it.
The province. It's worth a shot if you want to try it. I'm just saying, there might be some clouds obstructing your view.
Yeah, don't send the complaints to Colleen.
Please don't.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
We'll see you back here tomorrow.